Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan, Karnataka. Welcome you all to the webinar on Bringing Excellence in Teaching by Professor Shashindran M. Prabhu, Key Resource Person, KSGI, Bangalore, organized by BITES, Board for IT Education Standards in association with Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan. In the whole of the academic curriculum, the teacher plays an important role. Even though there is a material to read and accessible to almost everyone, teachers are required to facilitate the learning. In India, the number of educational institutions have increased 100-fold from independence till date. But the quality of the students coming out of the institutions are subject to different opinions. While comparing with the institutions and the students abroad, except those from IITs and very few reputed institutions, Indian students are yet to meet the expected standards. What is that they in abroad are doing? We will not abroad are doing, which we in India are missing to do. Even though we will not be able to include everything they do in abroad, part of it, and can we learn and add to our teaching process to bring excellence in our teaching process. This talk will include differentiate among literacy, education and skill, teaching, learning and exam preparation style in India and abroad, comparison with respect to students level, teacher roles, a personal experience of teaching globally, career options and aspirations, lessons learned for takeaway. I request all the participants to stay muted for the smooth conduction of the event. Also, I request all the participants to mention their name with proper initials and mail ID, which will be considered for attendance. Let me now give an introduction about BITES. The Board for IT Education Standards is an autonomous body and non-profitable society promoted by the government of Karnataka in association with educational institutions and IT industries in Karnataka. In order to enhance the quality of IT education and help build quality manpower for the IT industry. Set up in June 2000, BITES is an ISO 9000 2015 certified organization. I am truly privileged to talk about BITES. Now, I request Ms. Tejaswini, Assistant Professor, Department of CSE, Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan, to present the welcome address.
Good afternoon all. I, Tejaswini MR, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan, Karnataka. Firstly, I would like to welcome you all to the webinar on Bringing Excellence in Teaching by Professor Shashindran M. Prabhu. First and foremost, even in the absence, I would like to welcome Shri M.R. Anandram, Honorable Chairman of our college, for the great support for the conduction of this webinar. Welcome, sir. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. M.G. Mtesh Murthy, sir, Technical Director of our college, for his enormous support and sincere guidance to make this function a grand success. Welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome K.N. Balasubramanya Murthy, Chairman, BITES. So, welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. H.S. Mona, Principal of our college. Welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome Professor Shashindran M. Prabhu, Key Resource Person, KSGI, Bangalore, who is a speaker for this webinar. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Maina A.N., Professor, Head of Computer Science and Engineering. Welcome you, ma'am. I also welcome all the staff members and participants to this webinar. Welcome you all.
Thank you, Tejaswini. Now I request Ms. Shruti, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan, to introduce today's speaker to the audience.
Good afternoon, all. Myself, Shruti, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan. I'm honored to read a brief profile of Professor Sasindran Prabhu. Professor Sasindran Prabhu is MTech PGDM by qualification. Professionally, he is a senior member in IEEE, fellow in IETE, qualified and certified project management professional. He was a senior program manager in CDOT till the year 2000. Later he joined Tech Mahindra in 2001 and retired from there as a senior solution architect a couple of years ago. Currently, he is a KRP and visiting faculty in KSS EM, Bangalore. In Tech Mahindra, he was taking care of induction training for the fresh engineers, including conducting sessions. He has also received many awards like Grand Salute, Guru for Engineers Training, and Capability Development. Academically, he was the faculty of for wireless 4G broadband management and entrepreneurship subjects, coordinating and guiding final year BTech student projects. He is involved in giving FDP sessions in later domains and technologies in telecommunication engineering, behavioral management topics. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Shruti. Now we shall start with the session. I request the participants to drop their doubts in the chat box, which will be taken up soon after the completion of the presenter's talk. Also, a link will be provided in the chat box. Kindly provide your valuable feedback, which is mandatory to get a certificate. Now, I would request today's speaker, Professor Shashindran M. Prabhu, to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. I guess all of you are able to hear me and see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for a very nice introduction about about me too. Today's session is bringing excellence in teaching. So before talking about this topic, let me tell briefly about how I am connected with the teaching, how much I am qualified to talk about this topic. Even though I am very interested in teaching profession, after my college, that is about 35 years ago, I didn't go into the teaching. I did my MTech and went for industry as an R&D, research and development in telecommunication in a government organization called CDOT, Center for Development of Telematics. Then later I joined one of the top 10 IT companies, Tech Mahindra. And first 10 years I was working on projects, traveling abroad, US, UK, Australia. But later, because of some family happenings, then I moved into the training. The last 10 years before my retirement, I was taking care of trainings of our department, which was called as networking, telecom networking. So the main thing is induction training, especially the engineers who come out of the college when they join the companies. So first 3 to 6 months, we give a training, giving orientation to the industry and which are the domains, project which they are going to do, and getting them ready to work in the project. So I'm not as much trained in teaching like in college. So that I think many of the audience will be. My main teaching is mainly in the industry, but who have completed their engineering and they joined in the college. Right. Then the last couple of years, I'm working in a college as a visiting faculty. I have taken a subject wireless and some management subjects since I'm an MBA also. So I can compare with the industry after they joined the students our teaching experience and back in the college after my graduation before 35 years ago. So some of these points I might talk may not be 100% valid for a college kind of atmosphere, which I think most of the audience who are the faculty, senior faculties might be able to visualize better. But generally about teaching, what I am going to talk about. Okay, I am not going to talk about the topics like new education policy, NAC, NBA. Those are all of different type. New education policy is bringing a different structure. Earlier it was 10 plus 2 plus, now it is 5 plus 3 plus kind of thing. And the NAC and NBA are all basically a certification kind of thing, like audit kind of thing, where you check infrastructure, you check the faculties, we have adequate, whether we take care of the students, faculties, all that. Okay, this is not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about generally about the teaching, teacher, students, teaching principles, learning principles, how to make it excellent. Basically, excellence means we are bringing into the quality, not just completing the syllabus, completing the number of classes, completing saying that my curriculum is done, but bringing some about quality of teaching, make the students like, and bringing the passion to the students, and make the students like the subject, like the teacher, like the teaching. Okay, this is mainly what I'm going to talk about. I guess all are able to hear me and see the screen. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Oh, in case if there is any problem, you're not able to hear or able to see the screen, let me know about it. And I
Sure,
will
sure,
try
sir.
to correct it.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk, the first 1 hour, let's talk about, go through the presentation, and then we will address the questions. So first we are going to differentiate about literacy, education, and skill. When you say teaching, it is all are not same. Okay, there is a 3 different type of teaching is there. Literacy means is elementary school type, learning the language, learning the numbers, know how to read newspapers, how to read bus number, destination of the bus. Literacy, especially country like ours, we are not 100% literate. Literacy is also very important, right? Next comes to the education. Education means basically we cover the high school, that we learn a lot of subjects, history, geography, science, maths. Okay, we learn about the subjects and we try to know about the things around us, right? Next is the skill. Basically, it is college. We call it as a higher education, which is actually skill. Skill means you learn something by which you get a job and you make the learning. Technology is part of skill. All right. So without literacy, you can't educate. Without education, we can't go to the skill. Okay. So I'm going to first differentiate between all the 3, then we will go to the teaching. So then I'm going to tell how actually things are, how the teaching style is here in India mainly, how the learning style of the students, and how the exam preparation style, and ideally how it should be, right? Ideally means to compare with any Western countries, may say US. Okay, US is most of our students, they complete and then they have a dream of studying there, getting a job there. So whenever I say ideally advanced countries, I'm meaning mainly the US, where the students have a dream of going about. How the teaching style is there, how students learn, and how they prepare for the examination style. See, one thing all of us should know, that in US, the students who go there, they don't do that much of hard work like we do, neither the teachers nor the students. So they are an average effort, not stressing so much, but they learn and they are in demand. Imagine the same thing in India, except maybe very few students, bad students, all the teachers, all the average and above students, they work very hard, right? And they stress also sometimes. But even with all that, we are not considered very good, right? So what are the reasons? What is they do which we are not doing? We are doing more work, more stress, but still we are not getting recognized. So there is some gap is there, which we are yet to know about it and follow it. which will bring the excellence in teaching. Okay, that is my plan of going through. Then we will compare what is the student's level and what is the teacher's role here. And personal experience, I remember 5 years ago, I conducted one session of time management as a part of a project management from Tech Mahindra, since I was taking care of the training part. And it is global, all the countries, anywhere they can join. And there were about 350 participants were there. There were about, I think, 250 or 300 comments were there in the chat box. So this is a typical training session which I took, and I get some experience to distinguish what the Western students do, what our Indian students do, how they expect, all that kind of thing, right? Then we'll come to the career options and aspirations of India in our country, including Bangalore, including Karnataka. What are the career options available and what are their aspirations of the students, and what is the situation earlier and what is the situation now and what is going to be the situation tomorrow. And finally, we'll come to the lessons learned and say what we should do about it to implement later. Okay, then we'll come to question and answers. Okay, so this is how we are going to go. Let's go. So first, differentiate literacy and education and skill. What is literacy? We have to know how to read and write. How it is acquired, basically in elementary school, and sometimes the parents also teach. Okay. Some of the parents, they are very much involved in the children. Every day they see that my child went to school, what did they study, whether they studied, whether they are progressing or not, right? And it is required for education and skill acquiring. So without literacy, we cannot go to education and skill acquiring. Okay. In India, no state is 100% literate. We say Kerala is the highest literate state, but not education and skill. It is only literacy only. Okay, it is tending towards 100%, but it is only literacy, right? Next is come to education. What is education? It knows about, we should know about self and the world around us. So through reading newspaper, through talking to somebody, okay, nowadays through going through Google, browsing, so we come to know, how we are and how we are placed in the society. We should know how to live with even ambiguities and risk, right? Life is not so smooth always, right? Then everybody should have been successful. Why everybody is not successful? Only few people are successful, few people are average, few people are below, because some of them know how to live even with ambiguities. They know how to take risk, whereas some are not. So this is also part of the education. And we should know about what is the economic, political, emotional, scientific aspects of the world around us. Ethics also included, right? For example, if we are in Syria or Afghanistan, you know how the atmosphere will be, right? We are in India, so we know the Indian atmosphere. Suppose you are in America, what kind of person you should be? What kind of political atmosphere? What kind of emotional atmosphere? In some countries, say Afghanistan or Syria, people will be always afraid. They don't know what will happen next time. What will be the future, like that, right? Whereas India is more peaceful country when compared to that. And Western countries are still different from us. So we should know about the world around us. So ethics is also included. What is ethics? Ethics means we should not copy in the exam. It's a bad practice. Anybody who get a higher income, they have to pay tax. These are all some of the ethics we know. So we know some of these businessmen or even cricketers, they get into tax problem because they are not highly educated. They don't even know that when you get a big money, part of it has to be paid as a tax. They still think that whatever the money I earned is for me only. So that is up to a certain extent. After that, we know we have to pay tax to the government. Every country, every government in the world has running because of the tax money, all that. Even when a student learns a skill, okay, what I'm going to talk next, knowing what is the scope of that skill is education. Okay, getting a skill is one thing, but knowing about the skill is also an education. So imagine 30 years ago, only electronics, not 30, say 50 years ago, electronics was coming up. Then devices came up. Then VLSI came. then processors came, then assembly language programming, then higher level programming like C++, then it came to Python, right? So this is how the, scope. If somebody knows only assembly language programming today, he will not get any job. So you need to know C++ and Python only, which are in demand, which is actually the style of any programming or software in the world today. So knowing about the trend and getting ready for it is also part of the education. Right. Coming to the next skill. What is skill? Skill is knowing the techniques to earn for the living. So suppose if I know I have to learn Python, I will be in demand, so I will get a job. It means knowing Python or programming is a skill. Okay. Professional degree holders acquire skills in their domain, like engineers, doctors have experience in medical, lawyers, CAs. So professional degree holders, they have always skill in the domain. Whereas non-professional degree holders, they don't have any specific, but after they join the job, then they try to acquire. And if they are very successful, sincere, they make their domain and they progress in the career. When one skill loses demand, one has to acquire another skill to continue to earn for his living, right? Unlike like literacy and education, skill is not permanent. So language is permanent, number system is permanent. So literacy, once we are literate, you don't need to do again and again. That is why in elementary school, which becomes the base. Then education also, it is same, whereas skill is always changing, right? If somebody knows about only hardware design, about 20 years ago, they were in demand. When I was doing my engineering, we were all buying, processor chips, making a PCB and soldering. That is what we were doing. But today it is different. You can buy the Arduino kit directly, okay, and you can only program, connect together and see whether it is working. So we need actually that kind of skill. Browsing skill is required today, right? And you can do online training. Like Python, I want to try, I don't need to buy a book and read. I can just go to Google. There are so many presentation training material. I can take and read to know what it is. Then I want to an expert. Then you enroll in a course and you get a certificate also, right? So this is the about the skill. Whereas our degree and education is permanent for life, but skill is not permanent for life. So it may have a validity of say 3 to 4 years because the lifetime of that skill is only that much. After that, you have to again brush up with a new skill. If you want to be in demand, you will get a job if you are updated with the skill. In advanced countries, even though very less people are highly skilled, almost all are literate and educated. For example, if you take America, the number of postgraduates and MTechs are much lesser. In India, it is much more, right? But in third world countries like India, if you say, there are extremes. We not even have a literates as well as we are highly skilled also. We have a both sides. That is why we are more imbalanced and we see some corruption, violence, fraud and everything. We always go into the extreme. Whereas in all advanced countries, it's very difficult to see the postgraduate and PhD. That is why most of the outsourcing work, either it comes to the third world countries or our Indians are demand in America. So they get a job easily because there is a shortage of highly skilled people there. Right, let me move on to the next slide. So how it is actually there in India, okay? I mean, we know we can visualize our condition, how it is, and then we can compare with how it should be. Most of the educational institutions, except a few like IITs, students do not listen seriously to the teachers in classes. Mainly the front bench students, few of them, in few of the classes, they listen. They make use of the classes very well. Otherwise, majority of them who are in the back bench, who are actually just for attendance, they come and most of the time they read some notes or books in the last 2 days and they write the exam, they finish it off. But just a few days before the exams, they sit and read continuously without break. This makes them only to memorize, right? So especially in engineering, it's not a subject of memorizing. It's not like a history, geography, or formulas just to memorize. We need to understand the basic principle. Then you come to some block diagram. Then you come to some formula. And then you have some problem you solve, right? This is how the principles getting reinforced in our mind. So just memorizing means 2-3 days before, You have some people have photographic memory, they write very well. Some don't have photographic memory, so they are not writing well, they have a low marks kind of thing. Teachers try to cover the whole long syllabus, taking every topic in the same space. We have a long syllabus, say 5 modules. Each module we have to cover this many classes, and most of the teaching teachers, their intention is to cover the whole syllabus within the specified number and get ready for internal test kind of thing only. So in this case, understanding goes to a backseat, not able to visualize. It takes lesser time. Teaching is not aligned with what is importantly required later in profession and struggle in the job interviews. So we try to read only from exam point of view, in memory point of view. Automatically, when you go for a job interviews, what the employer will ask you is mainly based on his project, what they are going to do, whether you have some minimum knowledge required, whether your understanding is right. This is what is mainly important in the campus interviews kind of thing. That is why some of the times we see even the first rank holders, first class holders, they don't succeed in the interviews, whereas the average people will succeed in the interviews because it checks only the understanding, not actually reproducing. Unfortunately, most of our university related curriculum is, our exam system is mainly, actually it encourages the reproduction. Tight control on teachers leading to monotonous work. Students are less enthusiastically involved. Till the degree is completed, students have no idea on how the subject is related in the later profession. So when you are trying to relate that what I am studying in the future work or a profession, automatically interest will come. But when it is not related, it is, like I have to study something, memorize something, write something and get marks, right? It is more of an exam only related, and I don't bother about what I studied, how I studied. Only the marks will indicate that how much work I do. Okay, this is how actually the teaching, learning and exam preparation currently it is in our atmosphere. Going to the next one, how it should be. Okay, now we come to the advanced countries, how they do. Students listen seriously to the teachers in class, ask questions and try to understand well. Okay, I know some of the teachers will have a complaint about the students here in India, but when you go to US, and if you take the class, since I have taken, I'm telling my experience, that the students will never allow you to complete the class. So first few minutes itself, there will be so many questions, they will not let you progress itself, because they want to make use of the class fully. Okay, just like, I go to the shop, I give a money and then I get what I want. If I don't get the right thing, I will, demand, I should get the right thing. I should get this. This is not what I want kind of thing. Same mentality is there for students also. So they want to learn in the class. They want to make sure that 1 hour or 2 hours they spend, they have learned properly, right? So they will ask questions. And if you keep answering the questions, definitely we can't complete whatever the syllabus I plan to do in that class. Okay. This is very, very important. So how you manage the class is another important thing. Still we have to complete, we have to manage, right? They take the exam day too similar to other days and do not stress beyond the limit, right? So just be few days before the exam, you try to read everything, try to reproduce, don't sleep whole night. All that will add to the stress, right? So we should read every day as and when the classes are over, then try to understand. And you take almost like the exam day is also similar to other day. Maybe you have to just revise and go through the notes what we have taken. Teachers take the important topics in detail and use variable importance according to the practical applications. So there are some topics which is important. Some are very easy where students read by themselves. The teacher doesn't need to cover and spend time kind of thing. So they give a variable importance. What is most important? For example, we have 5 modules. in that first module has to be taken very important, because that is the basis, right? Only without understanding the basis, there is no point of going to the second, third, fourth module. They are all, like a foundation means you have a wall, then the roof. If the foundation is not very strong, there is no guarantee the roof and the walls will remain. It might collapse, right? So very important topics they take in detail and use a variable importance according to the practical applications. This is really required. So you have to take in more detail. This is just filling the gap, not required so much to go into the detail kind of thing. They actually segregate what should be taken in detail, what need not be taken in detail, so that you spend more time for the important things and you can go a little faster for less important things. Alignment and focus exist between the subject and the later application in profession. Teachers have freedom to address the students according to their needs. They decide mainly the course and coverage, basically the syllabus. Actually, the teacher has a more freedom in addressing the students. In our system, it is not. So university makes the syllabus and you continue the syllabus. They give a textbook. So they have the internal test. So mostly it is rules and process has been set. We just follow it, right? So this is evident that 2 years ago, how we were taking. Now in the last two years, we have a Corona time. How we have taken, we come to know about it, right? That's why if you compare with IITs, what they did in IIT in the last 1.5 years, what the other colleges did, IITs actually it is mainly left with the staff and the students. So the teacher can decide what is to be covered, what is not to be covered, and the assignment is given by the teacher directly and he collects it. So the teacher has a full freedom to address the students according to their needs. If you have a lesser time, automatically you cover only this much part. If you have a weak students, you take a special class only for them. If you have a strong students, you can skip some of this, right? So this is the result of the freedom what is given. So the teacher not only just acting like one among 100, he actually becomes the core of the person in the entire system. Students know what they study and the knowledge required later in their profession. So whatever I study, I know how it is going to be used later, right? So it is not just memorizing and writing. We need to have an application. So when you are taking the class, so we have to relate it to how it is being done. Okay, for simple example, an electrical engineer, he knows about everything about electrical engineering from the syllabus. But suppose in his house, the tube light is flickering. Does he know how to, solve the problem? He should know how to say whether tube is the problem, starter is the problem, or the choke is the problem. You can't go and change everything. If you change everything, then we don't have any knowledge. You go to the shop and buy the new tube light and put that 500 rupees, you have to spend. Whereas if you know about little bit of electrical engineering, you should be able to address which may be the faulty one and try to replace only that, right? So this is how I apply. It is not only just learning about the techniques, but also we have to try to apply to know that what we learned is how is practically applied. Let me go to the next slide. Let's go to the students. In advanced countries, students from abroad like India come after GRE, TOEFL, and they are the cream of the world. In state universities, native students get priority. The system is such that the students are passionate with the subject, otherwise they will drop out. So this is another important thing. If you see the students there, they are really passionate, means in the subject they are into it, right? If they don't like the subject, they will drop out. They will ask questions. They try to make it clear. Even if it is not there, they will drop out from the subject and they will join in the another subject to get the credits. Okay, finally the credits have to come, right, to complete the degree, right? So the students are to be passionate. Only when I have a passion, I'm interested to know more, then I try to ask questions. But if I don't have a passion, I will not have any questions. I just want to do like a religious rituals and then complete it here. Overseas students have to work hard. In addition to doing course, they have to work for money, teaching assistants, and do all the house course. Imagine people who go to do their MTech after the graduation in India, they write GRE TOEFL, and the 2 years is a very tough period. It is not like India, parents will make the food. It's a very easy life here. Whereas there, once you go, you have to take care of, even cooking, cleaning the house, everything you do by yourself. Just like our Gurukula days, we used to do, the farmer, if he want to educate his son, he will take one bag of his farm produce. He goes to one Gurukula, give them, and the student will be there. It's not only the, technique or the skill, he actually learns the entire life itself, how to manage the life, right? So similarly, even the abroad students, when they go to US, they actually not only learn the subject, they also know how to manage their life also. In India, the top students go to IITs, NITs, middle and lower rank students go to other colleges. Mainly the issues are lack of English language, less educated parents, and career focus only in the final year. So, since engineering is always developed in English, so strength in English is definitely a must, right? Unless these subjects are developed in our local language, we can't do anything, right? So students who are, average or lower students, when they study in the village atmosphere, their knowledge might be good. This is a raw knowledge, but their English may not be good. So in the classes, they won't be able to listen. So it doesn't make much sense to them. So everything what the teacher talks, it doesn't make sense to them. Then they go to the, home and they try to read. A little bit stressful. I mean, classes are not very useful to them, kind of thing. So having a good command over the language is definitely a must. And if the parents are educated, they will always follow up with them. But some of the middle class families, the parents might be an auto driver, a servant maid. They all will not know. They all think that I spend this much money every year. At the end of the 4th year, my son or daughter has to finish and have to come with a job. So how they do internals, whether they submit assignments, whether they have complaints from the teachers, all that they won't know because they have not gone through this, right? So educated parents and uneducated parents, there is a lot of difference in building up the future of the children. Career focus only in the final year. So all our placement training starts mainly final year. So for example, if you take the 4 years engineering course, for the first 3 years, it goes only in the academic curriculum, right? Only in the final year, they think about the job, what type of job they need, right? And what type of domain is interesting, which companies exist, which one will be good for them, kind of thing. Which means that the first 3 years go only in the exam system. Only the last year, they start thinking about the job and try to match with the subjects. Even the subjects also presently here, more of the practical oriented subjects like fiber optics, wireless, they are all comes only in the final year, right? Whereas the pure theory oriented subjects and pure mathematics oriented, which actually takes most of the time, which not able to relate with the future job, and hence the passion also is reduces. Let me come to the next point, is teacher's role. Ideally, the teacher should be focused on students with customer supplier motive. What is customer supplier motive? If, in business, what they do is somebody pays money. I go to the shop, I pay the money. I know how to expect the perfect thing which is suitable for the money, or sometimes more valuable than money also, right? So customer supplier means in the teaching style, who is the customer? The student is the customer. Who is the supplier? Teachers are the supplier. Teachers are the supplier of knowledge. Students are the receivers of the knowledge. So there is a lot of accountability there. So if the students are more interested, definitely automatically the accountability of the teachers also become more, right? So since most of the students are passionate and they are involved, Definitely a weak teacher cannot manage. Unless an experienced teacher, the teacher also has to be passionate and he is also should be involved, right? Highly interactive. If nobody asks questions, the teacher knows that it is not something interesting. He will try to make it interactive, guiding more than just completing the syllabus. Students' welfare and career oriented. So every class, every subject we take, you know how to relate with the students' career and how their future plan is part of it. Actually, teachers are very aggressive in completing the syllabus with a specified number of classes. While trying to complete the long syllabus, they give the same importance to all topics. All topics need not be taken in the same importance. If you say we have 5 modules and we have 50 classes, so if you divide that, there is a lot of differences there. Something can be skipped, something can be taken faster, something has to be done slower, kind of thing, right? So I was taking a management subject to the third year students. I think there is a subject called management and entrepreneurship. So management is different, engineering is different. Engineering is basically mathematics, modeling, block diagram. It is difficult to understand, but once you understood, it is the very same thing, right? Whereas management is easy to understand, anybody can talk, but practicing is difficult. Suppose if I have a good marketing strategy to attract customer in one marketing domain, there is no guarantee that it will be successful in another domain. There again, I have to see what is the marketing, what is my segment, how it has to work, right? So the approach, what we do is different. For example, in marketing management, there is something called Maslow's triangle, right? I think many of you might know about Maslow's triangle. There is a triangle with 5 levels. The bottommost is physiological needs, then the security needs, then social needs, then self-esteem, then self-actualization. So some of the students, engineering students, put the triangle upside down, right? So because in engineering, if you have a triangle, whether I put top to bottom, you can put other way also, right? Because top and bottom, left or right is only relative terms. It is not an absolute terms. But without physiological needs, you cannot go to security needs. Without security needs, there is no need of social needs. Without social needs are satisfied, no self-esteem will come. Without self-esteem, you can't go to self-actualization, right? So every human being needs a food. Every human being needs sleep, right? So this is always should come to the bottom, right? If we know this human psychology, nobody will put that Maslow's triangle upside down. We have to put the bottom base down only, right? The tip will be in the top, right? So this is something which is understanding. It shows that how it is been understood, not just reproducing. Explaining with practical examples for important and basic topics does not get sufficient time. Suppose if you go in a very fast mode, you want to complete the whole syllabus within 50 classes. Definitely you cannot spend for one important topic more time. You can't relate it with the practical applications. Teachers are used for many types of jobs in addition to the primary role of taking a subject course, right? I remember about 35 years ago when I was doing my engineering, my teachers were spending about 80 to 90% only in teaching, right? Remaining 10 or 15% only in attendance, question paper setting, all that. But today it is different. Today, more than 50% of the teacher's time goes in administrative, clerical type of thing, because they have been used for many things like class teacher, proctor, exam invigilator, and many more. So automatically, the teacher's time used only for academics, research kind of thing has been reduced. So either we give a importance, give a preferential treatment, you won't be able to do a justification. Making students more understood, taking more time, answering all questions, which will become difficult one. Right, let me come to a personal experience, how it is. I hope all of you are able to hear me and see my slide, and I am going in the correct speed. Any questions? Hello? Hello?
Sir?
Is it going fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to give you one example where I took a session which is global. Okay, so I had attendees from US, attendees from Europe, attendees from Singapore, attendees from India. Okay, I'm going to share you that how the response and how we try to know the students' logic, how it is Indian students, how the American students, right, and what are their expectations, how they are different. I took a session of 2 hours on time management as part of the project management certification course. Okay, there is a course called project management certification, which is, I think 13th toughest subject in the world in the hierarchy. And if after completion of the degree, if you want to become a project manager in any of the US companies, the certification is more important. If you do the certification, nobody will ask any questions. They will directly give a position saying as a project manager. If not, then they will ask too many questions to know what is meant by project management, how they did all that kind of thing. Okay, so this project management is not just behavioral management. Okay, it is more of a modeling and mathematics also involved, right? Normally, time management means the behavioral side. We say you have to be motivated, you should not waste your time. You go into the detail, you have to do the perfection, all that. That is the behavioral part of it. But in the project management, there is a mathematical modeling, how the network diagram is made, how much time each activity takes, what is the sequence of it, how you want, what you will do if you want to reduce the time, which is called crashing, or how to do the activities in parallel if you want to reduce the time. So this is something very important in time management. So when you fix the deadline of when I am going to complete the project and give the deliverable, it is a very very important topic to discuss about. About 450 students joined from all over the world through Cisco WebEx, and my chat box had 300 questions. Imagine 2 hours. I planned to do 1.5 hour session and have just half an hour for question and answer. And I want to finish it with the right justification, saying that I have done a justification for this course. Okay. So how was it went through? There is a remarkable difference in the students' learning aptitude. There is some trying to make full use of the session with many questions. This is typical, Western way of doing. All American students want to make within the 2 hours know the best. They have not done any preparation before. They will not think about it also after the session. Okay, this 2 hours, how I want to make sure. That is why they ask so many questions. They want to learn in that itself. So the first 5-10 minutes, you will have only bombarding with questions because they want to know what it is, what I am going to cover, how is going to be useful, what is the basic principle behind it before going to that. There is another set of students, basically will not ask any questions, but they will ask only at the end. This is a typical our Indian style of doing it, right? We listen to the whole thing and then we note down the questions then and there. At the end, we have to ask the questions still if the question is not answered in the whole of the session. Okay, the first category of the students don't have a patience. They don't want to wait even the full 2 hours. Okay, so if they wait for the full 2 hours, lot of questions might have been answered later, right? But some of them are not, because they are not very sure about how it will go through, right? The third type of students have no participation at all. Just like, some of the students come only for attendance kind of thing. No participation. They just want to log in and they want to log out. So they don't have any idea about it. They want to have this many hours of training has to be done. There is a mandatory requirement every year in all companies. So they want to just participate and do. Right. So what is the type A? Students want to complete the learning in those 2 hours itself. Type B only listens, try to get all info ready and for later study. So they want to just know what it is, and definitely they have a plan of studying again and write an exam or participation or certification type of thing. The type C wants the 2 hours to fill in mandatory of 35 contact hours. To do the project management certification, we have to show that 35 contact hours we went through. That is that kind of category of people. The type A only anxious to know what it is. The type B has plans of writing exam and complete the certification. So normally our Indian students, in the top students, they are all coming to the type B category. Okay. Very few students in IITs or top class, they come in type A. Right. The type C does not have any immediate plan of to do the certification. That is below average and who want to do only the attendance type of students. So this shows that how the students' logic is involved, right, in different demographies and different levels of the students. So the teachers also have to know this and trying to, do best what they can do, right? If you say, I have only type A type of students as an audience, I should be highly qualified. I should be highly manageable, right? And they may ask very intelligent questions and they are in the top class of the students kind of people, right? Not anybody can take the class, right? I should have a lot of experience in the subject. I should have taken a lot of classes also before. Type B is not very much experienced, but it is okay, right? Everybody cannot be a PhD. Everybody cannot be a 20 years experienced kind of thing, right? That kind of thing. So type C is not much experienced in the subject as well as not experienced in teaching. So this is how the teachers can do. This is how the students also expectations are. So next we will go to the career options and aspirations in India. Okay, I have read a paper which I am going to give the reference in the last slide about how India, how the engineering education started, how it went through. Okay, the whole matter in this slide is based on that paper. At the time of independence in 1947 in India, the number of engineering colleges and polytechnics were 44 and 43, with an annual intake capacity of 3,200 and 3,400. Today, India produces 1.5 million engineering students from around 3,500 engineering institutions annually. So almost like a 10 times. The quantitative growth of engineering education in India has increased the opportunities for engineering aspirants and has contributed to the nation's growth. But the maintenance of quality has become the victim of this growth phenomenon. That's why some of the companies like IBM, they all say more than half of the students coming out of the colleges, they are not employable, right? And some of the companies like startups or companies need a big number of people, not a very tough job to do kind of thing. They are fine. They will take any number of students. Even if they have not first class in engineering, still it is fine. It depends, right? What type of work they are going to do, what kind of project, who is going to be the customer for their project. So what is essentially required is not only the degree. Suppose if the university degree alone can do, you don't need a training, right? Every college has a placement. It is not required. If university degree alone is enough, it is not true at all. They do a placement training. Similarly, after joint companies, they do induction training again, because there is a gap between what the university curriculum and what the industry demands. So what is essentially required is can work with anybody, anywhere, has the communication and networking skills, team skills, and understanding of global and current issues necessary to work efficiently and effectively with other people. In essence, to build the competencies of know what, know why, know how, and know who, right? It is not only what is in the syllabus or a textbook, you also should know that how important it is, whether it is relevant or not relevant, what depth I have to go, right? And you know that in a team of people, what kind of the other people, how to get help from others, or how to render help to the others. Because when you face a problem in a problem solving atmosphere, whatever you know, however we know, it may not be sufficient, right? Nobody knows everything. Nobody has a ready-made solution for every problem. Everybody has some knowledge somewhere and some knowledge they don't have. So it is only the team spirit and good communication skills make you perfect. You can do the best solution at any point of time, and that is what leads to the creativity. India has the manpower to substantially meet the needs of the world hungry for skilled workers, provided its education system can convert those numbers into a skilled workforce with the needed diversity of skills. Right? It is not only mentioned what is in syllabus and get a good marks, but also it is how to apply, how to communicate with others. So more of an application and understanding skills are also required to make them more and more successful in the job. Right. So what is the teaching and learning system? Ideally, the whole education system is meant for the benefit of the students. The teacher's approach is kind, helpful, relating every memory-based fact with the practical actions. So it is not only a memory. Mainly memory is more important, because when you are writing an exam, how much you are recollecting the memory and write. Definitely it is important. The person who has a good memory skills will reproduce better and will have more marks. But even to improve the memory, understanding is required. That is how it is practically applied. Okay, evaluation is strict and no tolerance, because certificate has a value. It means evaluation has to be strict, right? So how this memory, I mean, you can see a lot of YouTube sessions that they say that how you improve memory, how it is related kind of thing. A simple example, suppose if I'm asking somebody that write down all the activities you are involved. Okay, now you start writing, reading, lecturing, writing, talking in the meeting, supervising, something you write, and at the end, still I'm not sure whether I have covered all the activities. Okay, I have written something, but still I'm not covered, because you are trying to recollect from the memory only, right? But now I give a hint which makes you very easy to recollect from your memory. Just think about the activities right from you are getting up from the bed till you go to the bed in a typical working day. Now you know, right? Getting up, brushing, taking bath, praying, eating, traveling to workplace, lecturing, writing, talking with students, again traveling back to home, taking notes, eating again, sleeping. Now you know you have recollected all the activities, because practically what you do, say just 1 or 2 days before, you can recollect and write. Now you are sure also that you have included everything. So this is what something with to do with the memory, how to improve your memory, how to use the memory. It is not just taking a photograph or remembering, but you are involved in a practical actions involved. Automatically your memory will be better and perfect also, right? In schools, I mean, there is a basic difference in, in Western countries and here is in schools, the subject teacher sits in the same classroom. The students move from one room to the other between the class periods. But in India, actually classroom same, students sit in the same class, only the teachers with the different periods they come. That is because there the room is equipped with all infrastructure like models and experiments. So if you say you are going to the maths class, the room and the teacher is fixed. Only whenever there is a maths class, the students go to the class. So in India, we use only, majority of the schools, we use only the blackboard. But when you have a lot of experiments, models, so you can't move, no, teachers cannot move from class to class. Only the students have to come. The teacher and the room is same. Students will be moving around the classes, because it is more of a practical rather than just displaying it on the board. Actually, what is happening, the system is made from top to bottom focused. Okay, there is somebody has made the syllabus, and then you have a textbook, and then we try to go. The teacher's approach is following the rules and regulations. In schools, the students sit in the same classroom. The teacher moves from one room to the another between the class periods, since the room is equipped with only the writing board. Right. So this is the basic difference in the school level between the Western countries and country like India. Right. A lot of anomalies getting reported in the exam systems, marking systems. So if you see some of at the end of the semester results, now it has become revaluation has become a standard, right? Revaluation can be one or two students. There might be a mistake. There might be missing some paper. Some teachers might have made a mistake. So you have to reevaluate. But now, if you see, the revaluation has become a standard. After the results, there are a few days reserved for revaluation. And most of the students who applied revaluation, they get pass marks and they do also. It is even the revaluation is not done 100% correct. The student who is expecting 90% marks, if he is failed, only the revaluation is done. But if a student who has done about 90% marks and he has passed, normally he is not encouraged to do the revaluation. So if there is a mistake of, correcting, it remains as it is. I mean, I have heard the cases from many of the teachers here. Even I have even observed some of the students who are actually doing very good in internals, but they don't reproduce exactly from the books. They get a good marks in internal, but they get not getting good marks in the external. But it implies that normally the other person will think internal marks are given generously and external is very tight. Since somebody else is correcting, that is the truth. But that is not the truth. Most of the time, it is the reverse is the truth. Internal, you actually follow up. You see the student day to day, and we know very well that the student knows or he doesn't know, whether he is understood, not understood. Right? In the external exam, it is only reproduction. Whoever has a good memory power, he will get. He has a model answer, you compare with it. Even if the teacher does not know the answer, he will compare with the model answer. Whoever has written exactly, he will get more marks, which means that the real understanding is not counted. Only the reproduction is counted. And most of the students, such students who get a good marks, they may not be doing very well in the placement interviews. The system encourages mainly to memorize the subjects than allowing understanding or passion or the interest. Let's go to the last part of it. The lessons learned. Empathetic to students. We need to be empathetic. Like when we are students, how we were feeling, the same feeling has to come. It's not that when we become a teacher, we are in the other side. There may be few problematic students in the class, but the approach need not be only facing towards them. Majority needs guidance from the teachers. Passion is the subject. This will do a lot good to students as well as the reputation of the institution. Exams and scoring grades only certify the completion. But basic understanding and, it comes from the passion. Definitely a passionate teacher and the passionate students, if they exist, definitely there will be a lot of students around the teacher, right? The students like the teacher, they like the teaching, they take the classes also, they count the classes. Definitely it makes it easier for them to understand and to do well. Pedagogy. While qualification of the teacher is an essential criterion, pedagogical skills are mandatory. So if the teacher is an expert, he is he's a big expert in the subject, but that alone will not do much good to the student, right? Pedagogical means I have to understand the logic of the student and I need to see maximum of my knowledge get transferred, right? One is the language. First is language has to be good. Doesn't mean that you have to be expert in English. I know students from the rural background or mediocre students, they may not be good in English. So in between, we can also talk in the local language. We don't expect English to be 100% perfect, but English has to be only to transfer the information, right? So in between, we can talk our local language if that makes a difference. And, we have to, tell in the what is the majority of the students, what is the understanding and the perception level, the class has to be according to that. if this both the rate is not matching, if the students rate of understanding is low and the teacher's rate of communicating is faster, then the efficiency of the class comes down. Adapting to local conditions of the students and the institutions. So maximum benefit will come if we understand the local conditions, right? If you go to the Western countries where English is the mother tongue, definitely the teacher and students will be very good in English, right? But in India, it doesn't work through, isn't it? Every state, every 100 kilometers, our language is different. And definitely talking in a convenient language makes people more understanding. Only unfortunate thing is that all our subjects, especially technological and engineering, it is not developed in our local language. So we have to depend on English. So definitely students have to come to certain minimum level of command over English language. And the teachers also have to little bit come down to the students level, talking to the local conditions for the maximum knowledge transfer. Right. So that is what I wanted to convey. One of the references is there is a URL which I have given. It is about engineering education in India, preparing of professional engineering educators by, there are 4 authors. They are part of Center of Educational Technology, Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, India. So you can search in the Google Scholar, and if you are interested, you can go through the paper. It tells you all about from independence till today, how our engineering education went through, all the teaching, learning logic, how the institutions and different states, job opportunities, how the career aspiration changes, all that kind. I know when about 35 years ago, when we were studying engineering, there used to be 7 or 8 colleges in every state. It's very difficult to get an engineering seat. So definitely most of the engineers, all the engineers will get a job. Employment was not a problem at all. Once you got a seat in engineering, it means you are employed also. You can take it as you have to wait for 4 or 5 years only. Today it is different, right? Today it is number of students are coming more, number of colleges are more, but employment opportunities remain same, which means that students who are cream of the students only will get a job. Half of them may not get. Not only getting a job, day by day we see even people who are appearing for CET exam have reduced, and even who are not interested in engineering also, because of engineering profession, the college is more, they get into engineering. Even the grades which are 50,000, 60,000 plus CET also will get some seat. And the quality and the excellence are come down. That is why some of the companies, they say the engineers are not employable, which is not true. There is a lot of expectation mismatch from the companies too. I mean, I have taken one session on what is the gap between educational institutions, how they contribute, and what is the expectations from the industry, why there is a gap and how to reduce it. There was one session, I think few months ago, which I did. It is not only the educational institutions, there is a lot of unexpected greedy demands from the companies also, which they expect that they will right away use it, kind of thing. So there is a lot of differences between the expectations. Okay, so this session, mainly what I covered, I will just go through once. We saw what is the difference between literacy, education, and skill. And we saw what is actually how it is being done, how it should be, and what is the student's level, what is the teacher's role. I shared some personal experience of what I experienced, what are the career options and the aspirations in India, and what is the typical learning teaching system here, and what are the lessons for takeaway. And there is a reference. Right. So that is what I wanted to cover. I think I am done with. I think exactly.
Thank
we have
you.
taken 1 hour.
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time for today's webinar. It was indeed a very informative session. Now I request Tejaswini to read out the questions if there are any.
Sir, there is a question from the participant.
Yeah, please
So
go
the
ahead.
question is, how to make students to be attentive in online classes?
I know. See, in industry, there is nothing called physical classes. Okay, in the last 10 years itself, is physical classes is totally ruled out. Online classes was there. About 10-15 years ago itself, it started. Only for induction training, that students who come out of the college, we used to have a physical classes because students were not used to using machines, online classes kind of thing. But that Corona has changed totally. Now the students coming out of the college also know about online. They know about Cisco WebEx, Zoom, or Google Net kind of thing. And since it is just 1 or 1.5 years old, that online teaching system in colleges, it will take some time to get used to it, right? Online classes is not as equivalent to physical classes. Absolutely, there is no equivalent for physical classes. There is ultimate, right? Since it was not possible, okay, in the Corona situation, parents are afraid whether the children will get into sickness. Teachers are afraid, college management is afraid, government is afraid. So instead of people losing the year, failing totally, we try to give some intermittent arrangement with the online classes. All right. So one is how to make students attentive is one is the teachers interest, his familiarity, his way of talking in the online classes. One is this. Second is there is some amount of experience has to come attending online classes, right? In children's, if you see the screen, the first intention is for entertainment, right? Watching TV, watching some games only. So that mindset has to change, that the classes are little serious. I have to be attentive. It is not like, being little casual about it. That transformation from the physical classes, the seriousness, looking at the classes will come little slowly only. But online classes is not going to be always, right? I think now October VTU is going to start the next semester. They plan for offline classes only, right? Unless things have changed for bad, they always insist that the normal things will continue, offline only to continue, kind of thing. Right? One is the teacher's ability how to improve the online classes. Second is it will take little more time for the students to get into this online classes.
Thank you, sir.
And there are new packages are also coming. Earlier, Zoom, Google Net, they are all actually meant for meeting. They are not for classes, right? Like now we are talking, this is more of a meeting. I am trying to show some slide, audience watch it. But for taking classes, you need another level of presentation, like MS Team, Google Class. Those are all more of a running the classes kind of thing. Now one more thing has come, pencil. One new thing has come where you can write. You can write on the screen as much as free as you are writing on the board, right? In the last 1.5 years, since online classes has become standard, more and more development also happening in technology side.
Thank you, sir, for patiently answering the questions. I request the participants to give your valuable feedback, which is mandatory to get a certificate. And the link for feedback is provided in the chat box. As we come to the end of the webinar, I request Ms. Shubhangi, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Naukis College of Engineering, Hassan, to provide vote of thanks.
Good evening all. Myself, Shubhangi Rajput, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Nafis College of Engineering, Hassan. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. M.R. Anandram, Chairman of this College of Engineering, for providing us all the facilities in organizing this event. Thank you, sir. I thank Director Technical, Dr. M.G. Venkatesh Murthy, who is the constant inspiration in conducting all events. I thank you, sir. I thank Dr. H.S. Mohana, Principal, who guided us in conducting all these events. Thank you, sir. I extend my warm thanks to Professor Sasindran M. Prabhu for sparing his time in his busy schedule and for accept our invitation to be the resource person for this webinar. I thank you, sir. I extend my thanks to Dr. Mena, Head of the Department, Computer Science and Engineering, for organizing this event. Thank you, ma'am. And at last, I would like to thank all the participants for their active participation in the conduction of this event. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Shubhangi. Thank you, one and all, for your participation. Have a great day.
Thank you.